What would I do if I'd won the lottery as a loner? Someone with no friends, dependents, or responsibilities. How would I spend all the money? Hey, and welcome to this episode 10 in this series where I speak unscripted and unedited for about 10 minutes every day. I'll link the inspiration for this in the description, and I was going to start coming up with my own topics, but there's still a few on the original suggestions that I quite like, and I think this will be an interesting one to talk about because, I feel as though perhaps my perspective on this would be much different from the average person, or at least the correct answer that someone would give. I suppose. Well, I'll introduce the topic again. So, what would happen? What would I do if I'd won the lottery? Now, I don't play the lottery, but I do have some money in premium bonds, which is like the UK government's version of the lottery, whereby you can buy tickets, so they cost £1 each, although I think you have to buy them in £25 amounts minimum. And each month there's a draw, and you could win between £25 and up to £1 million, which is very, very rare. The tickets never expire, so once you've bought one, every month you'll get an entry. And in that respect, it's risk-free because you can withdraw your tickets anytime and you'll no longer be in the lottery. However, the risk is, if you are actually saving or an investor, then you could win nothing. And there are examples of people who bought in like the 60s who have never won anything in like however many years that's been, a lot of years. And your money just gets eroded by inflation. So that's the risk versus just putting it in a savings account, which statistically will return about the same amount. But that's enough waffling about that. So the correct answer, I suppose, when you win a lot of money is to celebrate, have parties, go on holiday, pay off your house, let everybody know, spoil your friends and family, etc., etc. But what would I do in my situation? Because I don't really have any interest in all these things, to be honest. And I've thought it through a bit. I don't think it's very realistic, but I think that the first thing I would do, okay, this sounds a bit ridiculous, and the way it works with the premium bonds is someone comes to your door in the morning if you've won the big prize and lets you know, allegedly. There's been no real reports of this, but it must be quite rare. The first thing I do is I would make sure I don't tell anyone at all, not a single person. Maybe I'll mention it on this channel, so I'll tell whoever's watching, but you guys don't know who I am, at least not yet. And yeah, so I won't tell any family members, any colleagues, anything along those lines. And the first thing I planned on doing was going to the little corner shop, buying a packet of Marlboro Red cigarettes and smoking one, and then chucking them all away. I don't know why, but this seems like something that's worth doing. I've never actually smoked in my whole life, so I'd have no idea why I'd want to do this, but just to do it. Then I would go to work and just continue. It might be quite hard on the emotions, knowing what I know, but I'd have to just try and stay calm and continue my work. At lunch, I plan on buying a double quarter pounder meal from McDonald's and having that as a treat, because normally I'm very cheap with my lunch and such, but having a double quarter pounder meal, it might actually raise some eyebrows if all of a sudden I'm buying a slightly more expensive lunch. And that's all that would happen for the first few weeks. Nothing would change, but I'd start changing some things in that I'd ask my supervisor, or I'd let them know that I'd had some personal issues, my manager that is, and that I need to cut back my hours a bit. My plan would be to cut back to 0.5 full time, so that'll be half the number of hours, so 2.5 days a week instead of 5 days. And I just try and make it seem as though there's something serious going on in my life. I guess there would be, but not in the way they'd imagine. But I still wouldn't tell anyone, no family, just my lovely YouTube viewers. They would be sort of aware perhaps by now. And yeah, that would be my plan. And the thing is, a slight intermission here, but I think it would be quite tough in some respects, because it's it wouldn't feel earned. It wouldn't be expected. At the moment, I've got a sort of trajectory for my life, my savings goals and such. And then all of a sudden, I'd have all this money, and it would almost feel like the first, I don't know, however many years I've been working for have been pointless in some respect. I could have just done nothing and ended up at the same place. So I guess I'd still need to find some purpose in life. And that's why I'd continue going to work, albeit part-time. As I've mentioned in perhaps previous videos, I have no ambitions of like going on big holidays or, you know, owning luxury goods or anything along those lines. Like, my laptop's fine, my phone's fine, my cheap little microphone's fine. But yeah, so let's continue the story then. So I'm working part-time. My next plan would be to just try and offload the house because, well, I would have to actually do something with my life instead of just having a lot of money and continuing my life as it is, I suppose. So the plan would be to try and sell the house. And again, like, perhaps I would let people know that there are, I don't know, I'm having changes in my life, something along those lines. I'd probably move into the accommodation that of the place that I work with, and they offer accommodation to staff members and such. And yeah, that will be the plan for a while, mainly so I could be more mobile. And yeah, I suppose I have to have a plan then for what comes next. So what would come next? One thing I've always wanted to do is to learn a new language. Now, this sounds a bit strange. Why would I spend all my time and money with that? Well, with money, I'd all of a sudden have options and freedom, I suppose. I'd be able to work less, so I would have the time to be able to study a new language or something along those lines. I know I could now, perhaps with the free time I have, but it's not much time, and I can't really afford to spend money on, let's say, tutors and such. And the one language that I've always wanted to learn throughout my life has been Japanese. Very cliche, I suppose. Like, ever since I was quite young, all I knew about Japan was Pokemon, Power Rangers, and electronics, so like Mario and such, Game Boys. And it was the one course at my college, so where I was 16 to 18, which just seemed unusual. So I signed up for it for a couple of years, and it never really went anywhere, unfortunately. But I did really enjoy it. And it's just been that one thing that I feel that I failed at in life. Like, I started, I was progressing with it, I was doing well, and then it just stopped, and I ended up playing video games and ruining my life. But that's another story, I suppose. But yeah, that's the one thing I would probably try and focus on. I would also focus quite a lot on making more of these videos, because I have time, I'd have money, I'd be able to buy equipment, although, as I've sort of realised, the equipment doesn't matter at all. You just need to just make the videos, I suppose. You have to show up, you have to make the videos, you have to spend the time learning the editing software and such. I wouldn't want to just offload everything, because then, well, what's the point? I could just have someone else make the videos and then post them. Then I would be not involved whatsoever. I'd just be like a producer almost. That's not really the same. And yeah. So that's probably it, I suppose. I would just continue working, eventually get rid of the house, be more mobile then, so eventually if I want to do something, I can just go and do it. Let's say I do want to move abroad. I've always thought about going to, let's say, Malaysia and living there for a bit, because that seems to be the popular place. It suits my lifestyle because I don't drink. Or perhaps, you know, occasionally go to other various countries like Japan eventually, if I'm able to speak the language. And because I hadn't wasted all my money on holidays and such, and I'm quite financially responsible, I would have put away most of the money in sort of assets or accounts that are growing my savings in a tax efficient way. And I mean, that's something I am quite passionate about, personal finance, and I definitely will talk about this at length in the future. And yeah, I suppose that's it. It's a very boring thing to do with all the money, I suppose. But like I said, for me, the big things I value in life are freedom, peace, quiet, you know, not living a chaotic, crazy life. I'm not too interested in holidays, but I do like the simple things. But yeah, that's been it then, I suppose. Sorry if that was a bit boring in terms of what I was doing, nothing flashy or exciting. But when you live a loner life, these things don't matter too much. Oh, one other point, I've realised this morning that I can get into work at 6 o'clock instead of 7. So maybe I'll do that in the future. It'll de-risk the chance of my colleagues turning up early, because I don't think they're aware of this. And I probably shouldn't be in here at all myself anyway, but it's so much quieter and there's no one wandering around in the corridors. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow.